We lived co-housing in Blueberry Hill, and that was up near Washington, D.C. And we moved down here because of my grandchildren. And now the grandchildren are taller than we are and going off their own way. So we decided to create the whole new concept down here in Tennessee version. Blueberry Hill, plus they had Potomac Vegetable Farm. So we thought that might be a good thing to do.
So I first learned about co-housing before I met John from friends in St. Louis. And I was really intrigued with the way people planned a community together and were intentional about the quality of their relationships and offered privacy in their own home and at the same time had neighbors that they knew. So when I met John, I told him about it, and we were living in St. Louis, and when we were ready to move to the DC area, we only looked at co-housing because by then I'd persuaded him that it was a very appealing way to live. So what specifically interested me about it was the quality of the relationships, that people learned how to make decisions together. And I knew as a psychologist that that required a level of intention and skill and commitment to really listening respectfully to one another. And I just thought this is a great basis for good quality relationships.
I was intrigued with the sustainability aspect of it, 20 plus homes, 4 lawnmowers, that's all you needed. Plus you had a clubhouse to where you could go, so you didn't need a big home. So it was just, hey, let's live lighter on the land and the relationships. Burns Village Farm, as I see it, is community, a farm, preserving farmland, and giving access to affordable farmland for a farmer. All those things can really come together where we can be another model of how maybe we can live together in a more sustainable way, close to our food, close to the land, where those things, you put all those together, it creates a pretty sustainable model, not only emotionally, but also physically and nutritionally.
Well, my picture is shaped in part by the land itself, looking at this particular property and the way it's shaped with a kind of a bowl with an upper level and then down to an area where I picture water and then an area where there will be a farm where it's fairly flat. So there's the physical structure, and of course we've spent time designing the homes, the floor plans, and the common house. And then I also picture the relationships. I picture coming out on my porch and seeing a neighbor walking down the path and being able to call out and maybe say, I remember we were planning to talk about moving some of the wildflowers into your yard. You want to plan to do that this weekend? So I imagine us having conversations fairly easily with our neighbors because of the proximity and because we know one another.
The way that co-housing is structured, you have that interaction where you have those face-to-face, where you see them, your neighbors often. You might eat a potluck with them, you might have an outdoor work day with them. You might have a meeting together. So you see these people all the time. Yet you have the privacy of your own home. So in a neighborhood, you might be going out to your car or backing your car out of the garage. You might see a neighbor every once in a while. You don't have those interactions. And generally, you don't have those interactions that are built into co-housing where, you might not love everybody there, but you know them, you know where they live, you know where they have a dog. So it's just that basis of a good foundation for a relationship where you can work together for the benefit of the whole neighborhood.
I would say, in addition to the opportunities to become familiar with one another, because the possibility is structured in for people to be able to have dinner together, to be part of decision making. I think there's also a commitment to what are called agreements, that we have agreements about how we make decisions together that involve really listening. I like the idea of the consensus, the video that we ask people to watch, and it gives such a nice example of how much better the outcome is for all parties when they meet and talk about some kind of a decision. And in that case, in that video, it's about where's the garden going to be for a community not like ours, a community that's going to have a small garden. And coming together and making a decision about where the garden will be, that video shows a kind of a standard way of having a conversation where people sort of stop when they feel like there's some tension coming up. And then the contrast is where people know that they're going to be heard, that their voice matters, that people want to know why they want things to be a certain way. And the outcome ends up being something that is much more satisfying and actually helps the people to feel closer to one another.
Well, I come from a sustainability background, both with the EPA, I mean, that's where I worked, and also with the farm, with farming the way it is, the problems that we have with, I'll say, industrialized agriculture. So we need to change those things. We need to move toward where we're more sustainable. We don't know what sustainability looks like, but we know what's more sustainable than others, or what's not sustainable and how we can move there. So the farming is part of it, how we live and what we live, you know, sustainable building materials as much as possible that we will build in, and also use of fewer resources for all of us, you know. Hey, can you go get Theo at soccer practice, you know, I'm on the other side of town, yeah, I can do that. Or is anybody going to the airport or going to town, can they take me to the airport? So that's not an Uber drive, that's not you driving and parking to stand there. You're just, it's more sustainable for a number of people. It's easier on the community, on the people, and on the land.
I think the roots of my high value for sustainability come from, in part, growing up in a rural area, living on a farm, and having not the words necessarily at the time, but having a lifestyle that really had to involve not wasting, involved valuing the resources that we had, our creek, our pond, our capacity to plant and harvest food. So that seemed like a good way to live. I could see benefits to it. And so over time, it's evolved into an awareness that this isn't part of everybody's lifestyle, and that a lot of the way our world has evolved, social structure, people are not connected to the life cycle of the planet and the health of the planet. And so it's kind of intensified my commitment to be a part of shifting, certainly living in my own life and helping other people to live in a way that's very respectful of the earth and takes into account the impact of what we do on future generations.
Well, the farm is going to be something that I experienced myself. When we moved down here, I was farming with my son and his family. And also that comes from Potomac Vegetable Farms that was near Blueberry Hill. And I just saw the power of that farm in Fairfax County, Virginia. The last farm in Fairfax County, Virginia, which is a suburb of DC, and it's just filled with huge houses. And the sheer pluck of the farm family. Boy, this is important and we're going to do this. And I saw sustainable agriculture and how they, first they were USDA certified organic, and then they weren't. They just shifted to organic materials. But I just saw, hey, this is a step in the right direction. Not only the way that they farm, but also the way that it affects the relationships of the community. So Blueberry Hill was a community supporting agriculture. You know, you've heard of CSAs. This is a community supporting agriculture and promoting small sustainable vegetable and fruit farming. That's essential, which cuts down the food miles. You know, you get your lettuce from California. Well, no, you can get it right here, you know, within walking distance.
I think gardening and farming is good for my health. I think I personally benefit from being with my hands in the soil, planting seeds, transplanting plants, just watching things as they're growing. I think it's good for my health. So I picture myself being very involved. I know that lots of people don't have those kinds of experiences, so I love that our community offers a range from people being in the kitchen, rinsing off the tomatoes and chopping them for a salad, to people being in the greenhouse, planting the seeds. You know, it's all, the whole range is available to people there. My range is going to be as close to the beginning of each plant, cleaning up the garden in the fall, helping with composting. I'm going to be pretty involved with that, and I really like it. People don't have to be that involved if they don't want to be. They can be as involved as often as they want to be when they have time. Their kids can come out and learn, something about the different kinds of tomatoes. I like that there's room for a lot of different possibilities. Part of what we're seeing in the people who are coming to be a part of Burns Village is that there are such a range of strengths and interests. And so, yeah, I think it's really wonderful that in a community, this kind of diversity of backgrounds and skills and interests, we support one another. It gives us another way to appreciate one another. People have more fun when they're doing things they feel good at. And people are looking forward to learning new things as well. So I think, I think we really have the flexibility to let people come and do what they feel like doing, which might be things that they're already familiar with, skills that they already have. It might be learning something new, becoming good at something new. I'm looking forward to learning more about quilting from some of our neighbors who have just amazing skill with quilting. So I don't have that skill myself, but I know some of my neighbors will.
Can you imagine being back on a college campus, where there's so many different things going on with so many different people? And, you can go see this show, you can see this sporting event, and there's all different kind of things going on. That's what a lot of people equate what a co-housing is. You're on a college campus again, and, you can go and different things going on. So there's a lot of self-development that goes on with co-housing as you grow yourself. So, yes, all these people bring in strengths, but also I'm looking to improve myself. I'm looking for my self-development. I think I know a little bit about farming. That's a little bit about farming. I'm a very humble farmer, and I'm curious as far as knowledge is concerned, and I look forward to learning from other people.
We've had conversations about that word and borrowing from the sensitivity of the ecosystem. Diversity in plants and animals is part of a healthy ecosystem. So we've talked about diversity. I guess some of the kind of first line things would be age, physical ability, ethnic background, gender identity, politics, finances. We've also talked about, I had a conversation with one of our new members about ability to drive a tractor. Some people have a high level of ability and experience driving a tractor, and some of us have never been in the driver's seat of a tractor. So we can define it in a lot of different ways.
There's the long version, and then there's, I call it multi-generational diverse neighborhood. So, and what she said, it's all different type of people with different experiences of different ages and different points in their life, coming together, sharing those experiences. So I think that makes for a richer neighborhood, and also you learn a lot. Being in DC, which is a very diverse area, for 7 years, that was incredible. So I look forward to my eyes being open up to new possibilities also.
For me, I think I'm a healthier person when I have relationships with people that allow this kind of exchange where I feel like I'm supporting and encouraging someone else, and I'm getting encouragement and support for things that are important to me. So on a personal level, there's that. Plus there's good food right next door. I like the idea of us helping our community to be a healthier, more vibrant community. We talk about having events, monthly events maybe, where we teach canning, which John knows how to do, where we maybe introduce people to some kind of music, because we have musicians in our group. We hope to be a place that is a model of how people can come together and really respect one another's privacy and individuality, and at the same time cooperate in making art, making theater, making music. So I hope people will, and food, that people will come and benefit from what our community produces and creates.
Well, I want us to be a strong community in communities, different outreach with people, and we can do it not only with what we've created as a neighborhood, but also what we're doing with the agrihood, and have an active farm right there. Potomac Vegetable Farm, again, my experience up there, they had 400 friends of farmers that were part of their CSA. and they just loved the concept, and they were just there to support them, not only just buying produce, but also when they had get-togethers where they had potlucks, they would come. And if there was needed any kind of work, sometimes they would reach out to those friends of farmers. So reaching out to the community itself, being a good neighbor, not only to the people in your co-housing, but also being a good neighbor in Burns, being a good neighbor in Dixon County. Hopefully that will be a positive impact.
You're reminding me that at Potomac Vegetable Farms we had school tours, and children could come and see what a carrot looks like right when it comes out of the ground. And there are kids who don't realize that carrots start in the ground, and looking at where the egg comes from, out of a chicken. So I can see us having that kind of opportunity for educating the community and working with kids who might not have that direct exposure. I can also see us potentially contributing fresh fruits and vegetables to local food banks or churches that have food pantries. So I could see us being a part of the community in that way as well.
Well, there's a bumper sticker says, a neighborhood, an old-fashioned way of living, a newfangled way. So how we're living right now is not the way that we've been living for most of the time that we've been humans. 100 years ago is multi-generation in homes, and people worked together in neighborhoods. You knew your neighbors, and you needed your neighbors, and they needed you. So we work together. So this is not new. It's just we're kind of reinventing how it was 100 years ago or more.
Well, absolutely. I think co-housing is a great response to the hunger people have for being connected. And it allows people to be connected to the degree they want to be. So there's plenty of room for people to say, I'm kind of like once or twice a week I'd like to have dinner with somebody, but I don't want to be expected to be having dinner with people every day of the week. People have room to sort of titrate it out, to have the level of intimacy and contact with people they want. But it's there all the time. There's always, in a community like this, there's always the opportunity to connect with someone that knows you. And you have the freedom to decide how much you want to share with people, how close you want to be. It's there, though, so that people have an opportunity to connect with someone else pretty easily. Walk out the door, use the community's intranet kind of system, however we end up doing that, to communicate with one another, so that it's available.